Ready, set,
Yes, sir.
go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What's up, world? My name is Corey Stay Trapping. This is Trap Talks, where we discuss the intersection of culture and tech. I have my good friend Kyle Woumn. He's currently engineering manager of the lending platform at NerdWallet. Um, former founding engineer, former founding engineer Overflow, which was a
Yep.
nonprofit giving platform, and also former engineer at Twilio, where we actually met. Um, Georgia Tech grad, engineering grad, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Computer science. Yep.
Computer science. I know you want to add some more stuff. What else? What else should I add? Oh, also you co-founded Over the Top, which is like a traveling community.
Yep. Correct.
And shout out to your boy too. He just had a birthday, right?
So my boy, one of my boys, Jay. Yeah. He didn't co-found OTT with me, but he is a really good friend. He comes on a lot of the trips. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, anything else you wanna add?
Yeah. I guess if we want to, just talk about me a little bit. Yeah. So currently an engineering manager at NerdWallet, as you said. Prior to that, was on the founding team at Overflow, which is a venture-backed startup making it easy for nonprofits to accept different types of donations, including stock donations, crypto donations, etc. Have had the honor of being listed on Forbes 30 under 30, as well as Georgia Tech 40 under 40. And then, yeah, I started my career at Twilio as a software engineer on the messaging team. And that's where Corey and I met. And, super trapper Corey. And ever since then, we've been trapping. Nothing's been the same.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny? I think you're the first person that actually called me Trap House Corey, and I was like, oh snap! I think this might be
Yeah,
it.
no, it's catchy. It's for sure catchy. It's for sure catchy.
Yeah, cause we were doing a panel discussion with some middle schoolers, uh, and the former CEO of SendGrid, I think it was, right? He was also on that panel. Was it SendGrid?
I'm trying
He's
to remember because I don't. Was I on that panel? I know we talked about this before. I don't remember being on that panel.
I thought you was on
I
the
may
panel.
have been.
I feel
I
like
don't
you was
think
on the
so though.
panel. You don't think so?
'Cause I don't remember doing anything with middle schoolers with Twilio.
Yeah, because somebody introduced me, was like, "Oh, this is Trap House Corey," and all of a sudden the kids just perked up, and they was just paid attention to like everything I said. And I remember thinking like, what I sounds boring. What we do on a day to day sounds boring to a middle schooler. And I literally said a
Hmm.
variation of what everybody else said, and then whoever, I don't know why I thought it was you. I feel like it was you who introduced me, but maybe not. And it was like, "Yeah, this Trap House Corey," and they just looked and they like, "What?" I was like, "Yo."
But I think it's relatable. It's like it's what they hear in their music is what they hear. So they're like, okay, Trap House Corey, but it's like he's in this corporate setting and he's like, so it's like, they're like he must have something to say that we need to hear.
Right. Yeah. Um, so I gotta ask you, so you left Twilio, because I always wanna, I don't know if we talked about this in depth. So you
Hmm.
left Twilio, and we don't have to go into reasons like as to why behind it if you want to, but then you ended up turning Twilio to a customer at the company that you helped found. How'd you do that? How'd you leave Twilio and all of a sudden turn into a customer? Like how'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in not burning bridges. And I definitely left Twilio like at a time where I didn't feel valued. And that was just more so team specific though. It wasn't like at the company levels. It was just
Mhm.
more so like, at the like my manager wasn't rocking with me like that and I wasn't rocking with him like that. It was like one of those type of vibes. And so but I was like, okay, this I've always wanted to start something. And so that's when I left and I started Shopper briefly for a few months with two friends. But that it was basically an on-demand delivery for clothes. So think like Instacart or Uber Eats, but for clothes. It was like we would say you could try before you buy, and then if whatever you don't want, we send it. You can send it back. We would take it back for you, and you only pay for what you keep. So did that like then the pandemic started. And we just weren't the right team to make it happen, quite frankly. And so then I was like, okay, what do I do? Do I go back to Twilio? Do I freelance on the side while I try to like think of whatever the next big thing is or whatever my next big idea is? Or do I like join something like that's early stage? And so I got connected with the founder of Overflow. I already knew him, but we like reconnected And then he was looking for someone to lead engineering, and I was like, I like what you're doing. So we ended up collabing, and the way we started off with Overflow, it was a stock donation platform and it's a B2B platform. So basically, the nonprofits would pay us a subscription fee to have access to our platform where they can receive these types of donations. And some organizations do really well and have a lot of donors that have stock, others don't. But I was always thinking like, who has stock? And I'm like, tech employees have stock. And I
Right.
know at Twilio I think they still have Benevity, which is a workplace giving platform, but it's just specifically cash. And like around this time, it's like 2020, Twilio was a pandemic stock. So it boomed, cloud communications, people can't meet in person. So people are, sending text updates and using a lot of Twilio. So Twilio stock rose to like $400 within a few months. When I left, it was $90 for context. And so it was a pandemic stock, and I was just like, oh, this could be a great opportunity for employees to give, but they can give their equity. And a lot of people, some people hold on to their stock when it vests, others sell it. It really depends on like whatever people's like wealth strategy is, right? But
Right.
donating stock though is tax advantageous, and you're basically able to deduct the fair market value of the shares if you held it for at least a year. And so you don't have to pay the taxes on it if you give the shares in kind. The nonprofit doesn't have to because they're tax exempt. And most people, when it comes to giving, if someone's like, hey, can you donate to XYZ cause? People pull out the Kevin Hart, like, see the way my checking and my savings account is set up, right? But it's
Yeah.
like, their stock is their overflow, if you will. Like that's the stuff that's like the shares where they like, they may not plan on using that for a long time, but if they want to donate it, it's like tax advantageous for them. So it was a win-win on both sides. And so the person who was running the Twilio like corporate giving program at the time, I actually met her when I was an intern, and she was amazing back then. And so I just kept that relationship open. And basically, whenever we were trying to get a customer, I was like, oh, I know Twilio would potentially be interested. And so set up a meeting, and she loved what we were doing. And also like one of her like kind of like OKRs, or objective and key results, for like the year was to increase giving by like X%. I don't remember the exact number. So basically, she saw this as a way to help her achieve her goal. And so we were able to do it with Twilio. They were our first customer. Definitely had a bunch of like hiccups, but I appreciate the chance they took on us. And it was a great opportunity. And I was like texting all my friends, asking them, just give one share. Like one share is not going to hurt you. And so people gave, and it was really cool. And I really appreciated the support.
Yeah. Yeah. You left out something too, because the CEO, I'm blank on his name, Tulio. He actually sent you an email. It was like, hey, come back, right? Didn't he send you an email?
So yeah, when I was leaving the company, so for context for everyone, I interned at Twilio for 2 summers before joining full time. And so then when and so I met the CEO. He actually added me on Facebook randomly. That was interesting. But he had added me on Facebook like a long time ago. So we're Facebook friends, but like I'm pretty sure if he saw me on the street, he wouldn't know who I am. But basically, when on my way out, I sent him an email just because I'm like, I feel like the CEO should know how his company's operating. And so I sent him an email, and I was like, hey Jeff, I just want to reach out and let you know, I was an intern 2015 to 2016. My last day at the company is Friday. I'm leaving because I didn't feel valued. And, although I think Twilio is a great company, that was really unfortunate. And at the time, too, a lot of Black employees were leaving, too. It was like a mass exodus. And so, I just wanted to let him know. And I'm like, I have nothing to lose. And he was just like, I hope you know that he responded. And I told him what I was doing next too. And he like responded. He gave me some, business advice on like Shopper when I was telling him about it, which I appreciated. And then he also said, you belong at, I don't know if this is like a stock, response, but he's like, you belong at Twilio. And I hope if you would reconsider in the future coming back. So that's how it went. And so, I left gracefully. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So why is it, and it kind of goes without saying, but why is it important not to burn bridges? I think your
Yeah.
story kind of illustrates it, right? You ended up, you had a lot of relationships at Twilio. But yeah, tell us like why is it so important not to burn bridges?
Man, it's so important. And the thing is, I'm a petty person, Corey. I can be so petty. But as I've gotten older, I've let go of some of my pettiness. And a lot of it, honestly, I used to be very petty, but I'm not as petty anymore. It's kind of like, I gotta get that get back, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But these days I'm not like that. And just because like you just never know, like, I guess not like when you'll need someone, but it's kind of like energy exchange too, right? And so
Right.
it's like when you're burning bridges, it's like I feel like you're putting out bad energy and, causing a scene. And generally people see it too, right? And so, when you burn those bridges, and like one of these things I've learned too is reputation is everything. And so you never know when you might need someone in the future. I always try to like, I don't want to say I try to not need people, but you just never know who you might encounter or who might be that gatekeeper for your next opportunity or for whatever it is that you want, right? And so if you burn this bridge, and say for example, I burned the bridge with someone, and then I'm trying to raise money for my company, and the investor is doing reference checks, and they see we have this mutual person in common, and they ask about, oh, what are your thoughts on Kyle? And then that person says, oh, like, he left my company, and he was like, he basically burned a bridge, or I did something egregious or something like that.
Right.
Likely that investor is going to be like, wow, this person's character, I don't know if this person someone that I can invest in, or that I would want to see or be with or work with in the long term. And so it's just like one of those things that you just never know. And like this world is so small. I've learned how like connected this world is. Like
Very small.
random people that that just happen to know each other. And so it's just one of those things like I want to be able to go places and no one has anything bad to say about me. And
Right.
I feel like just being a likable person, everyone's not gonna like you. I know my mom always says, you can't want everyone to like you, but I do feel like being a likable person goes a long way
Right.
in helping you, when it comes to goodwill and just being presented opportunities.
Right. Right. You kind of surprised me. You said you used to be petty, so I gotta ask you, what's like the most pettiest thing you've done, or that you feel comfortable with sharing?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like I would say like in college, for example, like when friends wanted to do things or and like I had a car in college and like they wanted to do something, but I don't remember. I don't have a good example right now. It's been so long. I let my petty ways go, Corey, but I'm trying to think what is the pettiest thing I've done. I'm sure Mina knows what one of the pettiest things I've done. But I'm trying to think. It's just like one of those things because I'm also an only child too, and I think that comes out sometimes. But it's just like if there's something I don't want to do, and other people like the group wants to do something, and it's dependent on me, and I don't want to do it, I'm just gonna be like, hey, I don't want to do it. It's like stuff like that, or if someone says something to me, having to have the last word, things like that, or if I feel like someone wronged me, and giving them the cold shoulder and like just never letting it go, so, like always reminding you, like, hey, you remember that one time? So things like that. But I don't do that stuff anymore. I've matured. I've gotten older, and it's just not worth the energy.
Right.
I appreciate the peace.
Yeah. Well, was there something that happened that was like that made you leave the pettiness alone, or it was just like, I just want to be happy now, you know?
You'd be surprised. Is honestly for me, it was like as cliche as it sounds. It was like one of those things I went to God about. And I was just like, hey, like, God, help my pettiness. Because like, it was bothering me. And, people would call me out on it. And I was just like, I can't help it because, I would just feel a way if someone like did something you know, that I felt like wronged me or something like that, or just like bothered me. And so, I would internalize it, and that was like the source of, um, I would say those emotions where I was just like, all right, you got to know that I'm upset, uh, or that I am, that I feel away. But then, like when things like that happen, I think what really as I've gotten older, it's just realizing like, hey, these things like if people say something or even if people disappoint me, right? It's just like, that's life. And I realize that disappointments are gonna happen and I just gotta like let it go, roll it off. Like for example, right, I have a good example one. All right, so one of my homies, he used to live in the Bay. He moved away, but he used to live in the Bay, and he had an Equinox membership, and he was like, he hoops there, and he was like, yeah, I hoop. on every Friday at 6 a.m. I go to Equinox. He's like, if you want to run, like let me know. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. And 6 a.m. and I was like, 6 a.m. is early, but I'm like, I'm gonna make it happen.
Right.
And so let me tell you, and I was like, are you sure you're gonna make it? He was like, yes. He's like, I do it every Friday, bro, Corey. So I end up calling an Uber, and this was like an expensive Uber too. I call an Uber to Equinox because I was living in South San Francisco at the time, and this is like the Equinox on Market downtown in
Oh
San
yeah.
Francisco. So it probably ran me like $25 just to get there one way, right?
Yeah.
And I get there 6 a.m. Bro's not there. And then I text him, no response. I call him, no response. I'm talking to the people at Equinox, and they're like, I'm like, well, can I at least get a guest pass since I'm already here? And they're like, no, you can't do that unless you have a member. And then someone's like, so I woke up hella early to do this, and then like bro's not there. So then I'm like, all right, now I gotta go back home. And so I end up just taking Bart home because I'm like, I'm not gonna spend another $25 on an Uber. But I'm
Right.
like, I just wasted all this time. It's like, super early. And I was really upset. And then he called me and he was like, yo, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, I gave him like the cold shoulder. I was really tight about that. But then, he and I are like, we're still really good friends. And I just gotta let it go. I'm like, mistakes happen. He said he had went out the night before and like got too lit. And I did feel away, but I had to let it go. And it feels
Right.
good to let things go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. A lot of you said you had to ask God. Had to come-
I did. God
yeah.
help my pettiness. I was like,
um.
he's still working on me though.
Yeah. He's working on all of it. So how how did you end up at Twilio?
Yeah, good question. So basically, so I attended Georgia Tech, and every year Georgia Tech has a career fair, and so they have like a all majors career fair for like every single major. Most of them are like, there's a lot of mechanical engineers, all those type of companies. So your Procter and Gambles will be there, but the tech companies will go to the College of Computing career fair. So
Mhm.
so that's where the school like that's where computer science majors were in the College of Computing. And so all the tech companies would come there. So you have your Googles, your Microsofts, your Apples. They're trying to recruit talent from Georgia Tech. And the prior year, so in 2013, I went to the College of Computing career fair, and I stood in like these long lines for like, the Apples, the Microsofts, the Googles. I'm missing class just for the opportunity to talk to them because these are highly coveted companies, right, to work at. And I'm wasting not wasting time, but I'm standing in line for like hours, missing classes just to, for the opportunity to talk to them, hope they like me and, maybe give me an interview. Some companies would do like interviews on campus, others would you get to the front of the line and they just say apply online. Most of the big companies did that. They just say, hey, apply online. And for me, I like I don't know. I have like credentials on paper, but when it really comes to it, everyone at Georgia Tech is smart. And so when it comes to like actually standing out, it's really hard for me to stand out when you're applying just cold online, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something different the next year. So in 2014 rolls around. So like I said, the big companies are on the second floor and the smaller companies on the first floor. So I'm like, all right, forget the big companies. I don't care. And I did want to be in the Bay Area too, because the prior summer I interned in Salem, Virginia at GE, and it was just so slow. It was super white, and it was just like I was like, I don't want to, I don't know. It just wasn't exciting. I'm like, this is gonna be the rest of my life. Like that's not who I am. I'm over the top, Corey. I'm not a small town guy. So basic, so basically, yeah, that 20 summer. I mean, so 2014, that career fair, I went to the smaller companies, and Twilio was one of those companies, and no one had really heard of Twilio at the time. Shoot, I barely knew what they were. So in the line, I'm like on my phone, I'm like Googling Twilio, trying to understand like what they do. And so I get to the front of the line, and there's this engineer named Doug. He was a Georgia Tech alum. He graduated before me, so I didn't know him, but he was an alum. And they usually like to send alum back, I guess, so you can connect better with the students. And so I chatted with him for a little bit, and he was asking me if I had any personal projects. And I wasn't like this super like I was a smart person, but I wouldn't consider myself a nerd. And it's funny, I feel like a lot of people mistake me like, oh, Kyle's a nerd, but I'm actually not nerdy. I'm a smart person, but I'm not nerdy. And so he was like, "Oh, do you have any personal projects that you worked on?" And I wasn't that guy that worked on like personal projects in my dorm room for fun, like coding projects. And I was like, "No, I don't have any." And the reason they asked that question is because everyone has all the same school projects, right? Everyone in the class, so that they're trying to see what makes you different, what makes you unique. And so
Right.
I had to go into finesse mode. And so I was like, "Hey, I don't have any personal projects that I've worked on, but the reason is because I'm involved in other extracurricular activities and leadership roles like NSBE, so National Society of Black Engineers. I was on the executive board at the time, and then I was also, I want to say, like in like student government at the time, and so I didn't have time to even do any of that stuff. But I told him, and the guy Doug, he really liked me, and so he was like, "Hey, I actually want to interview you." So he's like, "Hey, let's do an on-campus interview tomorrow." So we did the on-campus interview. I crushed it. At least I felt like I crushed it. And then they said I would hear back within like, I want to say like 2 weeks. So I didn't hear back from them. Followed up, still didn't hear back. But I was so persistent because I'm getting this internship. I'm gonna make my way to San Francisco. And then I kept following up, and then they finally got back to me, and they're like, "Hey, we'd like to schedule another interview with an engineering manager or the tech lead for the messaging team." And so I had the opportunity to do that. And then from there, I got the offer, and it was really exciting. And so came out to San Francisco in 2015, lived out here. It was, it's different from the South. Being from Atlanta is definitely different. I'm sure being from
Yeah.
the South also.
Yeah.
But I really liked it, and I've always wanted to be like a tech entrepreneur. And so just being around startups, and they had all these like different events for interns, like at Facebook, at Google. So I would go to all these like intern events and meet other like interns, and it was just really cool. And I just love the energy out here. Like I feel like that was definitely like the heyday of like SF. I mean, people are saying now with the AI surge, like a lot of people are coming back. But back then, man, that was a time. And then, so yeah, I interned that summer 2015, and then got a return offer for the next summer. And then when I graduated, I had an offer to come back full time. As a kid, I always wanted to work for Apple. And so I actually interviewed with Apple for a full time role before graduating. And I got the offer, and the offers were damn near identical offers, like comp wise. But I actually ended up choosing Twilio just because I really liked the like how like at Twilio there would be an all hands, or back then they would do it like every week, and you could hear like how the business was going, and I just felt like I was part of something. Whereas I had heard at Apple how although Apple's a great company, but how things are so secretive, right? You can't really talk about what you're working on at Apple, even with someone from like another department. And so I really like the like transparency. I like that Twilio was in San Francisco. I had to go to like Cupertino, which is or like live in the South Bay where it's more suburban and like more like couples and families, especially for like a 22-year-old at the time. And then yeah, so those are the main reasons. And so I ended up choosing Twilio, and I'm glad I did. Like, it definitely was a great opportunity. Was able to pay off my student loans, you due to like that opportunity. So it definitely set me up and set my career up. I got to meet a lot of dope people like yourself and Shamika. And yeah, those were good times, man. Those were for sure good times.
Yeah. Yeah. I it's so different in the Bay now. Like I live in Houston, but I remember after the pandemic, it just everybody just left. It's not the same. Like
Yeah,
can you explain like how it was before the pandemic for
yeah.
people to understand? Like it's.
For sure, man. SF was the Bay Area was lit before the pandemic. So basically, there were companies. This is like everyone's in person, right? You're working in person. I remember Twilio used to do Fireball Fridays in the kitchen. So at like 3 p.m., people would be in the kitchen, start taking shots of Fireball. Um, that was fun as like an
So
early
that was hold on,
22.
that was before they went public though, right? Was that
Well, even when they went public, it started to slow down. But even when they went public, people would still do it. Yeah, people would still do it. It
I
was
missed that one.
Yeah, no, that was fun. There was happy hours all the time for like different groups, like different ERGs would have happy hours. There was always just something to do like after work. Like I found myself always like after work with my backpack like at some bar. And it wasn't really about the drinking, it was just like the socializing. Tech companies will always host different events. It was just very lively and vibrant, like San Francisco. I'm trying to think what else. Like so many different clubs have closed down too in the Bay Area. I don't know what they're gonna do because the All Star Weekend is gonna be in SF next year, so they got to figure something out. But entertainment, nightlife was really fun. There were a lot of like I had a lot of friends here that have since moved away to like LA, Miami, New York. So a lot of people back to Atlanta. Um, it's crazy. So then like during the pandemic, I remember on the weekends like Mina and I would go to brunch and we'd be like driving down Market, bro. It was like a ghost town. This one they had like the outdoor like shit, not sheds, but kind of like shelters where you can like eat because everything was like shelter in place. You couldn't
Right.
you really be inside, and so yeah, that was such an interesting time, man. I don't ever want to go back to that though. Like I'm happy we're like post pandemic, and I think SF will come back. I don't know if it'll be how it was before the pandemic, but I do think it's gonna come back eventually. But yeah, man, those are some really good times. It was always something to do. And I feel like these days it's just like options are limited, and then I hate to be like one of those people, but the crime and all that stuff, in Oakland and in San Francisco. Um, so it's just, and I feel like those things were always happening. Like car break-ins are notorious in San Francisco. But I just feel like pre-pandemic, like everyone was just happy and blissful, and then now with like tech layoffs, I think that's another thing that has something to do with it too. A lot of people got laid off in the last few years, like in like at a lot of these companies, and so they left the Bay. And so I do think like when interest rates were low, I know you be on this, like when interest rates were low and there was like all this like quote unquote free money. It was a ball, man. We need
Yeah.
those times back.
Right. Yeah, and I just think about how many events I used to go to, and like there was always somebody doing an event. It's
Yep.
so much free like drinks. I got so
Yep.
many shirts from random different startups. Um, One of my favorite things was like the Christmas parties. Like Twilio had that was the best. Um, I think it was 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019, right
See, I
before
didn't
the.
go to that one. That was the one at AT&T Park, right? Or Oracle
Yeah,
Park now. Yeah, I didn't go to that one.
I
Because I
literally
had.
Yeah, I literally walked. So we walked around, and by the time we walked all the way around, I probably was drunk, and I came back, and it was time to go. It was time to go. I'm Apple. I always heard about Apple and Google had the best parties. I always wished I knew somebody that worked at Apple, but I could never get into Apple's Christmas parties. I heard they
Mhm.
had the best ones, Apple and Google. Um, but yeah, that Twilio one was crazy, bro. I was like, yo,
Yeah,
that was fun.
those those were the times indeed, man. Good times. How's it like in Houston? Is it? Do y'all have that kind of like community, or is that? Would you say that was like more so just isolated to SF?
The thing about Houston has a really big. Honestly, Houston, the way I like to describe Houston is it's like a mix between like Atlanta and because you have the party scene.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of another city, but it's great for family, but it's also a very like party city too. It's like a city you can pick your speed. The only thing that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of bad about Houston is that everything is spread out. And so most of your I can't even say most of the action happens in Midtown or whatever, but there's like different neighborhoods. So a clique or a few people may be like, we're going here this weekend, and all of a sudden this club or bar or even the street will be popping. And then you
Mm-hmm.
look the next week, you like, where did everybody go? Like what happened? And so it's very like cliquish here. The brunch is like a real thing here. Like
Yeah.
there's a bar called Kiss. And so that's a place that people usually go to for brunch. Like they have a waiter and he'll be dancing to Beyonce and stuff. And like he's like you probably go there to see him because he's having so much
Mm-hmm.
fun. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, like here it's like it's a mix. The industries that are big here, like oil and gas, tech, medical is big here. Um, but you definitely need a car. You definitely need a car,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you live. Um, the one thing I don't like about Houston is that it is in a fishbowl. So when Sam Houston, who founded the city, he's actually was a New Yorker. Houston was basically a swamp. right? So if you look at, it floods very easily here. Like if it rains consistently for an hour, there's gonna be some places flooding. So you can imagine how it was when Hurricane Burrow hit, and that was only a category one. Um,
Hmm.
and I say only a category one because if it was category two, I probably wouldn't have power still.
Yeah, yeah.
But all in all, yeah, I like Houston. It's not like I think San Francisco was like the apex of my social life. Um, but Houston is I like Houston. Houston fits me now because most of my friends are just everywhere. So, I live in the middle of the country, so I can fly. I'm within what 4 or 5 hour flight of every major city on this side of the globe, right? Like
Hmm.
we went to Belize last year, and that was like a 4 hour flight, 3 hour flight, or whatever, right? We
Yeah,
go to New York if we wanted to. That's like a 3 hour flight. San Francisco is like a 3 hour flight. North Carolina, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
like for me, I've never been to Houston. Are you going to Afrotech? It's in Houston this year.
Oh, I am. I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna put something together, like a private event. Um, so if you go on, you definitely on that list. So
for
um,
sure. Appreciate that. Yeah, I got to
it,
figure it out. I got to use. I think we have a learning and development stipend, so I'm for sure going to use it for this.
hey, you better. It's gonna be lit, man. Like it's because you went to Austin. We were in Austin last year for Afrotech, and
Yeah.
we had a great time. But I think it's gonna be even bigger here. Like it's.
Do you feel like Afrotech fits a vibe of Houston though? Like, do you feel like?
As far as black people, yes. As far as tech, no. But then again,
Hmm.
I don't. The way you look at the way Afro Tech promotes itself is more of a media company. It's not really a tech company.
That's so true.
So from a tech perspective, no. But from as far as like black people, yeah, yeah. I think this is probably like the best place in the US to have it as far as like because 20% of people who live in Houston are black. Think it's like 20-25%. That's like one of the highest in the country, especially
That
in this
makes sense.
top four metro area as far as population. Austin is like, it's hard to find us. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. No,
know what I mean?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I play in Austin. Everybody's probably like, "Damn, where all these people come from?"
right, right. But yeah, I think Afrotech in Houston's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. There's not carjackings here like that. Like they don't really happen. Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for Afrotech. I can't wait. Like it's I'm kind of worried because I'm like, man, are people really gonna be? And you probably seen the chatter like people complain about Afrotech, and I think it's
Hmm.
kind of the same for all conferences. They're like, I didn't find opportunities, but it's like, you know, my thing is when I go to a conference, I want to do it all. I want to have fun, but then I'm also about my business, and so
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna be up 18 hours out of the day. Like it just
yeah,
is what
yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm
That's why I
saying.
couldn't hang last year, bro. When I went to Soho House, I was like, bro, my head was killing me. Like I felt like my body was shutting down because I was just like I was up nonstop. I was stressed too because this is when I had just left Overflow, so I was like stressed too. And
Yeah.
then like eating, drinking. I was like, bro, I can't hang.
But you flew in on a red eye though. You was just you basically flew in and was trying to hang on the treadmill. Like we had been there for like a day or two or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I bought my ticket after the conference had already started. I was like, damn, I need a job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a little bit different. Like, I mean, I think I was kind of getting up late too though. A couple of those days because it was we yeah. Because I got lit one day and I woke up, I was like, man, I went a little bit too hard. Like I was like,
Yeah,
I'm like, I literally had to think like, how did I get home? And then I thought about it. I looked at my phone. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay. I called my Lyft. Because
yeah.
Oprah helped me call. We were all hanging out, and she helped me call my Lyft from what Shamika and stuff was saying.
Oh
And
yeah, because this is the night we went out on like Sixth Street. We were at the bar and we were standing on the couches right by the window of the. I have a video of you like coming like jumping out the window and coming back in. Hold on, I can pull it up real quick actually.
I do not remember that.
Let's see. Austin.
But I do remember we went up because we the four of us, because it was me,
Here it
Shamik.
is. That's you.
I don't even remember that, yo. Oh my God. You gotta send that to me.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I always have a good time at Afro Tech, man. I always get like hella connections. Um, and it's like I end up seeing people. I when I went to Afro Tech in Austin, there was a few people I hadn't seen since I graduated
Oh
college.
wow.
Yeah, I'm like, dang, like it's good to see you. Crazy. Um, his one person I'm thinking of, his name is Javon, and then I ended up having to go back to Chapel Hill like a few months later, and I seen him there again.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and I seen him again. I'm like, dang, it's crazy. I've seen you. This is the most I've seen you in the past, what, 15 years, 10
Yeah.
years. Yeah, so but but yeah, bro, you definitely need to use that L&D budget.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I think I remember that bar because that bar is on the street. I forgot which street that is, but
Sixth Street.
that street is infamous, bro. It
Yeah,
really is.
Sixth Street. You ever
Sixth
see
Street.
the dude that is he has this Instagram account called The Desirable Truth, and he's always literally interviewing people on that street, like just asking them random questions. Like he's like a TikTok guy, you know?
Yeah. I haven't heard of that channel, but there'd be some wild stuff happening on Sixth Street that I later found out afterwards. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And like a certain part of it, they call it Dirty Six.
uh, yeah, we might have been on the Dirty
Yeah,
Six.
I think we were on Dirty Six. I think we were.
Yeah,
It was fun though.
yeah. I mean, we were in a pack, so it's like I wouldn't go on like Sixth Street like by myself. Like I'd rather go with like a someone else or a group of people. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, when you come here, you let me know. I know all the spots.
Okay, say
One thing,
less.
and one thing I'll tell you about Houston that I have not seen any other place that I live, man, almost every restaurant, sit down restaurant has like a happy hour. Like you can't survive here without a happy hour. Like I has a list of restaurants and it's called, Houston on a budget. And
Oh, nice.
these are all places like, I mean, there's a sushi place that we go to that's not too far from us, like right up the block. There's brunch places. Like there's so many happy hours here. So it's like you can um it's crazy. This one spot we used to go to called Fish, we each have like 3 or 4 drinks and barely spend like $20 and have food and stuff too. But now, they shut it down.
Wow.
So now everything done double, but we can get right on the happy hour like under $40.
That's
Um
probably why they shut down because it was so cheap.
the word got out, man. The word got out. It's called Fish. They have really good sushi, like really good.
Hmm. Nice.
Yeah, but happy hours, bro. So when we come here, we going to happy hours, like, um, but you gotta most of the happy hours are probably between like 2 and 6, but in some
Hmm.
places happy hour, they do some places do what's called reverse happy hour, where it's like at night. Um, but yeah, bro, it's the city gonna be lit, man. And I would say if you can, when you come here, like try to stay somewhere like downtown is probably gonna be overpriced. Um, but if you get your company paid for that, that's good. Um, Midtown is good, you know what I'm saying? Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I got an extra room, as you can see behind me, my office. So, if you want to crash, let me know.
For sure. Yeah, I wouldn't want to encroach on you. I'm like, if I was desperate, for sure. But I'm like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to have to take up your space, your office space. But I
Why not?
appreciate the offer, though.
Why not? Shoot. Because if I'm in the Bay and I know somebody ain't got to pay get a room, shoot, I'm be like, hey man, let me stay with you.
Facts, 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 facts. No, that's real. That's real.
It
That's
ain't
real.
it ain't about being desperate. Shoot, it's about
Yeah.
saving money.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think for me, I just never want to impose on people. If people offer, that's different. But I think for me, like I never want to feel like I'm imposing on someone, especially and you know all that stuff.
Man, you the homie. You the homie, but I appreciate that.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so you were doing a long distance relationship for a while, right?
I was, yeah, 3 years.
Wow. So
It was
how
not
were you
easy.
able to how were you able to make it work? What's up, y'all? My name is Corey Stay Trapping. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DocuLingo, Documents In, Decisions Out. Cool thing about DocuLingo, it actually have you able to talk to your documents like you're making a phone call to your lady. So in 3 simple steps, I'll tell you how to use it. First step, upload your documents to the platform. Step two, it starts to take and pull intelligence from those documents. And then the third step is that those intelligence are going to get pulled into your roster first system for sports organizations or your CRM for business intelligence and operations. So what I need you to do now is to go to doculingo.com/trap talks 2040 to sign up for your free 14-day trial.
Yeah, bro, it was hard. Not even gonna lie. Did a long distance relationship for 3 years. Mina was in Atlanta. I was in the Bay because she was a few years younger than me in school, and so when she graduated, she probably moved to the Bay. But man, it was tough because I just moved out to the Bay Area. I'm a young black man in San Francisco, but my head got a little big. I definitely did some f boy stuff that got me in trouble. That I definitely acknowledge, but and we've had conversations about.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a rough time in the relationship, but um, it was one of those things where I'm like, I know, and I remember before moving out to San Francisco, she and I we had that convo like, hey, are we gonna like stay together or are we gonna break up? It was like one of those things like, hey, we can go either way. Either way, we'd be happy. It's just kind of like, hey, how do we make this work? But I knew she was like the person for me, and so I'm like, I don't want to give up. This is just because I'm moving to San Francisco. And
Yeah.
so we decided to try to make it work, and yeah, like and she like man, she was amazing. I mean, she still is amazing, but she for like her friends will always go on like spring break to like Miami or Panama City Beach, or one year they went on a cruise. She will always come to San Francisco and visit me for spring break, and she will always do it on Spirit too. And I didn't have it like that back then because I had student loans, and I used to think like, I'm making six figures, but I didn't realize after taxes I wasn't really making a whole lot of money. And so like after student loans and like my rent, I lived in an expensive apartment my first year, like rookie mistake, right? But like all that stuff, I wasn't able to like really, I could contribute to the ticket, but I wasn't able to like buy plane tickets and stuff like that without going into debt too, because that's the thing, I hate debt. And so she would come out on spring breaks, fly Spirit, fly Frontier, the budget airline. And I'm just like, wow, you like foregoed all these fun spring breaks. You're a college student, right? With your friends to come with me. And so, yeah, it was hard though, man. Like, it was like one of those things where we would talk every day, but there's a 3 hour time difference. And so we would by the time I would call her, it's like 9 p.m. my time, and it's like midnight, but she always answered, no matter how late I called. Because I was also like doing like I was working on like a side project at the time. It was like a app for people in Black Greek fraternities, and so I was working on that. So I was like, okay, let me grind a little bit and then call her. I know if I call, I'm gonna be on the phone forever. And there was nothing wrong with that, but it was also one of those. It kind of felt like we were pen pals at a time, though. It's kind of like this long distance relationship hadn't seen each other for a long time. So then we were like, okay, let's do trips to where we can meet up somewhere in the middle. And so we went to like Chicago once. We saw Hamilton there, so that was really cool. One time we met up in Dallas, so that was fun. So we tried to like meet in the middle as well. But man, it wasn't easy, especially like I said, being a young black man in San Francisco, like getting money or starting to get money. It was like that ego thing. It's like when you're like in a new environment and it's like, your head can get big sometimes. And I definitely acknowledge that. But we made it work. And when she graduated, she had got a job opportunity. And they were gonna send her to, I think, North Carolina actually. And she was like, hey, I have a long-term boyfriend in San Francisco. Is there any availability out in the Bay Area? And they were like, actually, we have one spot, and they gave it to her. And then she said apparently another girl wanted to be in the Bay Area, but they didn't. that was the last spot. So that girl had to go to Sacramento. And I'm just like, wow, I just feel like everything was just divinely orchestrated, to where
Yeah.
this could work out. And so, yeah, she moved out here January 2020. We got engaged early January 2021, got married August 2022. And yeah, here we are it'll be almost 2 years. And yeah, next month.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's your advice? You kind of already said it, but what are like some main things for people who are in long distance relationships for them to work out? Like, what are your like tips for people?
Yeah, man. I think this sounds very cliche, but I feel like communication, is just really important, like sharing how you feel about things. And like for me, it's like I knew she was my person, but I think I had the, young mentality at the time. And we would talk about it. I would bring it up, never made her sure of herself. So I wouldn't say, do that for someone that's in a long distance relationship. But I think communication is key and like just creating routines. And so, I would say as the relationship got better, we would like, call it whenever I would wake up in the morning and like I know her like with her class schedule, she had like a break at a certain time. And so we would like pray in the morning on the phone, like, establishing routines like that, even though you're long distance, but like having those types of things, I feel like make a huge difference. I'm trying to think what else, what other advice I would say, if you can, meeting in the middle somewhere. I know that's expensive for sure. Like for us, like we were, she was a college student. I had just graduated, but we would try to do something once, at least every few months, in person. But it's definitely hard, and especially everyone has needs, especially physical needs too, right? Not even gonna lie. So it's like being able to like work through that with your partner and like being able to like communicate that is really important.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, love it. So you're married for 2 years. So what's some give us some marriage advice, like some stuff that works. But then also got all this, and so I tell people like, yeah, so I know it's kind of like what works for you because you're in a great relationship. But what are like some tips? And I think one of them is probably obviously going to be communication. But what other like some tips to
Yeah.
be successful in a marriage?
So prioritizing date night, I think that's one of those things. And I think with a lot of guys, and I'm speaking for myself, but we can get complacent sometimes, right? It's like we got the girl, we got the woman, right? And so it's like, hey, we live together, but it's one of those things where is that we live together, and so it's like, oh, we have each other's presence. But women want to, they want to have a good time. They want to know that you have to take initiative, even if you are engaged or married, X, Y, Z. They still want you to chase and pursue them, and so that's something I've learned. So always pursue your partner. I would say the other and like plan a date night. So we try to do weekly date nights. Thursday is usually our date night day, but today's we're gonna keep it low key. We're just gonna play board games, just because she has a trip in the morning, a flight in the morning for work. But yeah, so date nights, I realize it's just like they just want to feel important too, right? And so feel like they are your priority. And then the other thing I would say is, the biggest thing that we still kind of like get into it about is chores, man. Chores, and I mainly it's like one of those things where when we first moved in together, it's like before we got engaged. We had never lived with each other, and so this was like when it came to just certain things and like who does what, like we never really fully established a routine, and I think it caused some resentment like for the other person, mainly her towards me, because I'm not gonna lie, I was slacking on chores. I'm not a dirty person, but it's just like when it comes to things like I'm about business first, and I'm like the house stuff can wait. I'm like I got other things to do, but I realized that I can't do that. And so now I try to stay on top of my chores, even like cooking, right? Like, I'm not the type of person that expects my wife to cook for me every day. So, taking turns cooking, like, okay, I'll do dinner today. I think just showing initiative and like showing that, like, hey, I'm here to help lighten your load and we're partners, right? And then one thing we do every quarter, at the end of every like quarter of marriage, is we do a quarterly review. And so we have different categories like finances. What are some other? Finances. There's a few other things that we have, but we basically go through and we basically like give ourselves scores like of what we think, how we think we did, and where we can use improvement. I know promptness was one of them because I know Mina's late for stuff, and like whenever we're going places all the time, people are like, y'all are always late, and I can't just be like, it's Mina. You know, I can't throw her under the bus. I think people by now know who it is because like it takes guys no time to get ready, but you know, women they have to do all this stuff. But yeah, so that's one of our things like promptness, right? How do we do on promptness this quarter? But I think it's just like the reflection. It definitely helps, but you know, you're never gonna get it perfect. I still mess up on things, and you know, it's a continuous journey. But I wouldn't trade it for the world just because you know I have someone that I love dearly, that loves me dearly, that has my back through thick and thin. That's you know gonna hold it down, and I'm gonna do the same. And I used to think, you know, I used to have like single friends, or all my friends are like in relationships now, but you know, I was the first one in like my friend group to get married. And so, you know how when you're on the outside looking in, or I guess on the inside looking out for me, you know, it looks like they're having fun, all this stuff. But then I realized like, man, so many people yearn to have a partner, to have someone that's solid, that's like, you know, always gonna be there. You know, I hear people that's talking about, man, you know, I've wasted so much money, or on like just taking people out on dates to, you know, and they're not the right person. I know a lot of people like, I don't want to say my favorite color ever again. Like, you know, I just want to find that person and ride off into the sunset. And so I realized, you know, having a partner is definitely, and like someone that you know, vibe with and love is definitely a life hack.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, like like here in Houston, right? Like the dating scene, the stuff I've been hearing about it, I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow, you're like crazy.
Yeah,
Like
remember that stat? I remember that stat you told me. I was like, that's insane.
which stat?
It was about STDs, and you said something about
Oh yeah,
you said,
yeah, it actually made it made Shade Room. Um that's how I heard about it. It was something crazy like it 4x the number of like syphilis or gonorrhea cases, like 4x or something like that. I
that's
was like,
crazy.
oh, I sent it to one of my friends was like, bro, you need to make sure you wrap it up.
Yeah, yeah. Be
I'm
careful
like,
out there, my brother.
yeah, yeah, it's whew. I'm like, um, yeah, like yeah, it's hearing other people who are single and they telling me what they go through, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
might
think
have
there's the
like
glamorous moments, but yeah, it's not what it seems.
yeah,
What were you gonna say though?
when they tell me certain stories, I'm like, wow, okay, that's cool, that's great. And then you talk to them later, and they're like, man, this girl did this and da 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 da. I'm like, dang, like I could have told you that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The
yeah,
streets not for me, bro. I'm
yeah,
glad I'm out the streets.
yeah, yeah. Um, so how important is it to actually have friends who are also in serious relationships? Is that important as well, or is it not? Like,
So for us, we don't really have, at least near us. I mean, now we do. Like within the last year, basically all my friends have either gotten in relationships or gotten engaged slash married. So like my boy Gabe, he recently got engaged and then they eloped, but they're having like an official wedding this year. And so you know we'll hang out with them, but we like to be honest, we don't really have like a whole lot of couple friends. And I think it's just because, and I was talking with Mina about this yesterday. I feel like geographically, like these coastal cities, like the LAs, the Bay Areas, the New Yorks, a lot of young people, they stay single for a long time. They don't want to get married. You know, they're just like, hey, I just want to have fun. I want to, you know, make money, you know, work and just have fun, no commitments, right? And so we haven't found like a whole lot of young couples that are like around our age. And so, you know, maybe we do need more couple friends. I don't know, but we don't really have a whole lot of couple friends. We have like a few here and there, like out in the Bay Area that we'll kick it with from time to time.
yeah,
But yeah, but we always try to also like, you know, I think for us, because like also the thing is like you don't want to compare relationships too. You know how we talked about what works for you may not work for me, and so I never want to be like the type of person to want to like compare relationships either. And so, but we'll like if there's like people we like, you know, we rock with, we'll definitely like you know grab dinner, do like a double date or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I don't
I don't
like.
know how.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like I don't have a lot of like couples as friends that are here in Houston. that I can think of off the bat. Like most of them are, yeah. Like I had one in the Bay. There was with one in Atlanta. Yeah, they're kind of like all spread out.
Yeah, interesting. And it's funny because, me and I were doing this thing yesterday. So we did this summer program going into Georgia Tech. It was for like minority students, so Black and Latin, Latino, Latinx students. And so it was called Challenge. And so that's where I met my boy Gabe that does OTT with me.
Yeah.
So we met then in 2012, like first day of this summer program. It was like right before it's like a summer bridge program before your freshman year of college. And so yeah, we met. So he and I met there. But there's a Facebook group of everyone that was in, our respective years. So I was challenged 2012. She was challenged 2014. That's when she came into college. And we looked through like our respective groups and we were like, okay, because I have this theory that I don't know. So the way this conversation stemmed actually, it was I saw a tweet or something on Threads. It was saying like, Black men, what does being in love feel like to you? And like, I was reading the comments and one person like, why does it have to be about race? And she's like, because I specifically want to know like how being in love feels like for Black men. And I had this kind of theory and I'm like, you hear about the statistics about Black families around like, a lot of like, broken families or like single parent households, etc. And so we were going through like our challenge list, and we're still young. I'm 29. We're going through like the people in our group, and we're like, we wonder how many people from our respective years are married. I think for my year, it's me and like maybe two other Black people that are married, and then like for her year, like it makes sense only like one or two maybe because she's younger. But it made me think though, like but we talked about like a lot of our white friends that are our same year, and there's like so many of them that are married, having kids, and it made me think like, man, there's like the Black community, like I feel like we don't necessarily like value marriage and like long-term partnership, and that's a generalization, but it's just something I've observed, and I'm just like it's really interesting, and I don't know what it is. I sound like real old and like an old white man right now. Is it the rap music, Corey? Is it like what is it? Because when you think about the family unit, it's like that when it comes to it, I feel like that's like a great way to get ahead, right? Having like a two-parent household, being able to because then you have combined incomes, and then you're able to send your kids to different camps or programs and all this stuff, right? And so I'm like, is that what's lacking? Is that what's holding us back? Family? That was a huge tangent, but
No, like because I remember because see, like growing up, I didn't start seeing like a lot of like Black married couples that I was like, okay, they're in a good relationship until I was like in my late 20s. Um, that I could actually reach out and like touch and actually see like that I have other family. And I'm like, wow, y'all kind of like nuts. I see you ain't married, but like, yeah, man, that's very interesting. Like me, I grew up in a single parent home, but I always wanted to have like be in like a serious relationship, but it wasn't like something that I was chasing. I was just like, I want to have fun, live life. But yeah, man, that's a very like interesting look on it. Like the one thing I do remember from the pandemic is they were saying that the divorce rate went sky high. It like
I bet.
and they were saying that if a couple if a couple and my theory on it was part of the reason why it went up high because divorces went up, domestic violence went up, child abuse, like all those things went up, right? Because I think people were forced to deal with their problems
Mm-hmm.
internally and with each other, and relationships just cracked. Um, and so I think, and then the stat was like if I can't remember where I read it, but basically, if you were married, I don't know, like a year and a half into the pandemic, because at a certain point, the divorce rate just kind of like plateaued and basically went down, right? And so I think that was also interesting. Like I think the pandemic really forced people to
Yeah.
face their problems. Um, And this other thing that I have too is like I don't think most people really want to be in a committed relationship.
Yeah,
Because it's actually easier to end it and try to find somebody.
yeah.
It's like a
Seven,
paper
7 billion people on this work in this world, and I think that's another thing too. People feel like they have unlimited options, with dating apps these days and stuff like that. And so it's like, oh, there's unlimited options, and so it's like committing to one person is like, do I want to do that when there's all these other different options out here?
right, yeah, and then like so gosh, I can't remember his name was he's with the Nation of Islam. Um, I can't think of his name, but he was saying how
Louis Farrakhan.
not Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan doesn't really speak publicly no more now, but it's
Mm,
somebody else. He's younger. He's probably like in his 40s or 50s, and he talked about how I think post slavery, like right before post slavery, up until like 1950 or 40 or whatever, black people rarely, if at all, got divorced.
I
But
believe that actually.
but now, and I think I mean, we could talk about that a lot, like just on that. I think systemic racism. So, we had to, stick together. Like that's pretty much all we had. And a lot of people don't talk about marriage like this, but when you think about marriage, it's traditionally marriage, when you look at it from a tribal standpoint, it was less about love and more about building wealth, right? Like, like tribes, like, oh, how much can this tribe give to this tribe for the wife? Like, oh, okay, this is a good tribe, then we need to come together. It was more like a
Hmm.
business decision. I don't think a lot of people talk about marriage and relationships in that way. Like it is love, but it's also a business deal. Like just to be
Hmm.
frank about it, like we have to get a license for it.
Yep, yep.
The state has to sign off. Um, but yeah, so I think part of the reason why I also say that people don't want relationships now is just because, like you said, there's so many options. It's actually harder to be serious in relationships because we have, you know how they talk about like how they talk about diamonds, right? How diamonds are so expensive. They're not what it is the supply, because the beer
Hmm.
supply diamonds, so they constricted it, and so that inflate the price of it. I think what people see in the dating market is they're seeing the inflation of dating option. That's not really because most people don't have that many dating options. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you remember when I don't know who she was, but she was like, I don't want to eat at Cheesecake Factory. I
Oh
seen
yeah, yeah, yeah.
another girl was like, I need a man that makes 100,000, 150,000 a year. It's like, and you look at her like, I don't think she could get that. Now, if you look like Megan Good, and you like, yeah, I want a man that's making 200, and you got personality, you probably get.
Yeah,
And so I think a lot of people's um
the
who are single. And I
delusional.
don't think this is just like a black thing. I think this is just people in general. Like, you know what I'm saying? People are really have inflated mindset on like the dating market. Like it's not actually that many options out there for you. Like
Yeah,
it's just not like you know. Um
I believe it.
yeah, and like I like here in Houston, right? There's so many I forgot like women outnumber men by a lot or whatever. And then I hear it from both sides, like, oh, men ain't crap out here, women ain't crap out here. And it's just like, I'm like, surely you can find somebody like,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? But I think again, people don't really want to be in committed relationship because it requires a lot. It requires work on yourself. There's things you have to do with your partner that don't really you get enjoyment out of, but you have to do it because they like it.
Yep.
Like,
You really learn selflessness, and I think that was like the big thing for me, being an only child, right? Because I'm like, being an only, I don't want to say I'm selfish, but I would say I'm very independent. If I
mhm,
need something, I'll do it for myself, right? But I feel like when it comes to the part, you have to do things for the collective.
right.
And I think that took me a minute to actually, learn, but I've learned.
Yeah, yeah, like because I just think about what certain people be saying, and I remember I was hanging out with some friends, and they started talking about relationships, and I always get kind of like like I always kind of get a weird vibe when people just want to all of a sudden talk about relationship, what make good relationships and stuff. Um, and it was talking. I wasn't trying to join the conversation. I'm just listening. I'm like,
Yeah,
and I'm hearing some of the stuff they saying, and I'm like, hey, entertainment, but I also feel bad because I have people like one of my boys. He's really trying to get into a serious relationship. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so I hear the bad side, and you hear other people just like, yeah, they just having a good time, da da da. So, you know,
yeah, bro.
yeah, yeah. So,
It's hard
um,
out here, bro. Blood in the streets, blood in the streets.
yeah. So yeah, you did over the top. Like, what was it? What made you start over the top? Because I see, and here's the interesting thing about you that I found interesting. You are probably one of the most outgoing engineers that I know. Like, and
See,
then
that's
I
what I'm saying. I'm not a nerd.
and then I found out you went to it. You're from Atlanta. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, when I moved out, so Gabe and I, we both moved out here at the same time. So we were roommates when we first moved to the Bay Area,
Mhm.
and so we went to college together. He got a job at Accenture. I had a job at Twilio, and so we're like, okay, let's move out to the Bay together. Let's be roommates. And so we didn't really have a big community. We didn't know like a whole lot of people out here. He also interned out here at Accenture. He was in San Jose, and so a lot of the people we interned with did also move out here full time after they graduated. And so we had like a small baseline community. And then, we would meet people here and there. And so then, like I said, we lived in like a more expensive apartment when we first moved out here. Big mistake. So we are like, okay, we're gonna move to Emeryville, which is in the East Bay. It was a little bit cheaper. You can still get something, nice, but not San Francisco prices. And so we are like, okay, so we were moving the following year, that January 2018. So and my birthday is in January, and so we always do like a big birthday party for my birthday, like in college. And I was like, I don't really know that many people here. I'm not gonna do anything. And Gabe was like, we should do a house cooling. Like you have to do house warmings. We should do a house cooling since we were leaving
Yeah.
/ party bus for your birthday. And so I was like, sure, why not? And we had a rooftop bar, not a bar, but a rooftop at our apartment in San Francisco, and they had like a grill. So we are like, okay, we can grill, invite some people over, and then we'll do a party bus later that day. So we invited a bunch of people. People pulled up. We did the party bus, stopped at a few bars. Like, it was honestly a good time. Everyone had so much fun. So many people met someone new that they really like vibed with. Like, even like just like friendships. Not even like on some like, I'm trying to talk to you type stuff. It's just more so like people made genuine friendships on this bus and like at my birthday thing. And so one of our friends was like, "Oh, my birthday's in March." She said we should do like a St. Patty's Day / birthday yacht party. And so she was just gonna charge her friends like, base cost. Gabe and I were like, okay, let's see if we can make some money off of this. So we upcharged it a little bit, and it was a hit. We had the yacht party. It was like super fun. Invited some people from Twilio at the time. Invited like just everyone we knew. And then we're like, okay. And so then we started reaching out to clubs to see if we could like basically not necessarily promote, but basically we could even just host our own events there. And like a lot of people were willing and took a bet on us. And so, that's how we kind of got connected with different club owners within the city. And, we just like, okay, let's like, actually formalize this and make it a business. And so, and we're Gabe and I are both over the top. We like things to be extravagant and like the bottles. I try to grow out of that phase, but it just keeps finding me. But like popping bottles, all this stuff, right? And so yeah, so that's how it started. And then but as we've gotten older, our crowd's gotten older. People are like we're not trying to party all the time, which I feel the same way. I'm not trying to party all the time. Like I was in LA this past weekend. Bro, I'm still tired, and it's Thursday, and I got back on Sunday morning. I'm still tired, but basically with yeah, so we stopped doing as much party, especially like during the pandemic. I think that's when it started. So I think my birthday, which you were at, I remember we were at Gabe's spot in Oakland, like his rooftop, and then we went to Parliament, exactly. So that was January 2020. Then the world shut down, and so Gabe's birthday is in October, and we usually do a big party for him. So we've done like party buses and clubs for him. But that year, since everything was shut down, we're like, okay, but people can still travel. So we said, okay, let's do like an international trip to Cabo. And so we went to Cabo in Mexico. I guess I don't know if that's international, but a different country. It's Mexico. But we took a trip. Um, and that was a really fun time. A lot of people had fun. And then for my birthday the following year, 2021, I had recently gotten into snowboarding. So we did a group trip to Breckenridge, and people were loving the trips. And what we realized is that people love to travel, and a lot of people don't make it out the group chat. You know, people always say, let's do this, let's do that, but they don't make it out the group chat, Corey. Something always falls through. But these people, like our friends, they really wanted to do something, and like just the community we grew. And so then we started doing trips. So 2022 or 2021, that summer, we went to DR, Dominican Republic. And then in 2022, where did we go? Some people, there was a Japan trip some people went on, and then there was a Jamaica trip. So I went on the Jamaica trip, and then there was a trip to Japan, but I had just got no, Kenya, sorry, a trip to Kenya. I had just gotten married, so I didn't go, but Gabe went to that one, and they had a good solid group. So yeah, we started doing trips. 2023, we had a Spain trip, which Mina and I led, and then there was a Japan trip, which Gabe and a few others led. And we're trying to do Croatia this year. So we don't really have any big trips this year. We have like more like local trips. So like we're trying to do like a Scottsdale Labor Day. I won't be able to make that, but that's what we're doing. So we realize people love to travel. And then also we're trying to like find other things like that just help people professionally. So whether that's like career coaching, or we're still figuring that part out, but you know, now the way it operates is a yearly subscription to be an OTT member, and you know, you get certain benefits. You get like OTT credits towards some of these experiences, so you don't have to pay fully out of pocket. But yeah, we're still trying to grow it and figure it out, but that's just kind of how it was born. And you know, we've like less club. We'll do club every now and then if there's like a big celebration, but yeah, right now we have this membership model, and then you know we do the travel stuff like that, and like different. We try to do at least one social a week or a month as well. So yeah, that's where we are, man.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I remember I went to when I was last in the Bay. I think was it February? Y'all did an event at a bar. That was cool. Like meeting some people.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was like it kind of felt like I felt honestly. I'm gonna tell you how I felt. I felt like I was a part of the old. Um, I felt like I was somewhat representing the old tech Bay Area, right? And
Hmm.
then it felt like a lot of people who were there were kind of like new to movement. Like I remember meeting
Yes.
Fritz, I think his name
Yeah,
is,
yeah. Fritz. Yeah.
and he just moved there and during the pandemic, and I'm like, wow, like
Yeah.
I was on my way out. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. So yeah, it's been a great way for people, especially like new people. And so we're trying to like grow that and like, you know, be like a home for new people like coming to the Bay Area, especially like if you're black or, you know, ethnic. You know, we're trying to show you a good time and basically, you know, show you the ropes. Because I know it's definitely not easy moving to a city like San Francisco, being
yeah.
like a black person, especially if you don't have a network, an already established network.
Do you think it's harder to network now in San Francisco than it was before the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like you definitely have to like go out of your way to do it, or at least me. And I live in South San Francisco, so it's not far from the city. It's like 20 minutes from the city. But I think for me, like working remotely, like bro, there's days I don't even leave the house or go out. There's like days on end I haven't gotten fresh air outside. I got to change that, especially now that it's summer and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like there's not really as many events, and I'm not trying to drink all the time. And I know I can go to these events and not drink, but it's like thinking about that. But then also, I think with the stage in life I'm at, into like you know balancing family, and you know I can't be like before when we were long distance, right? I was outside at least like 3 times during the weekday. Or, I mean during the work week. So like you know like Thursday night, Friday night. Maybe there might even be something on Wednesday, like a happy. You know you remember old Bay Area, old SF. So but yeah, I feel like it's definitely a lot harder now. I think the events are like trying to come back, but I feel like I'm so out of touch. And I was really telling Mina this the other day. I feel like I'm still thriving off my like 2017, 2018, 2019 connections. I haven't made like a ton of new connections lately, but I feel like I'm still thriving off the all the people I've met, you know, during those years. A lot of people left, but there's still a good contingent that's here.
Yeah, like when I was last there in I think it was February, I think I was last there. Um I was on BART And then I was like, I didn't know, like I was seeing certain people, I'm like, I didn't know you were still here. It's like almost like
Yeah,
now lottery, like you don't know who's there, like because most people, you know, most people I know have a lot. I ain't gonna say most, but a lot of people that I know have left. And if somebody me and you know, I'm not gonna say their name, but they've been thinking about leaving. And
yeah,
they're and they're from the Bay. And I'm like, wow, like
yeah.
so yeah, it's the Bay has changed a lot. Like I think if I was to ever move back to the West Coast, it would probably be like LA.
Hmm.
But I have some friends out here in LA. Um, in LA, just I don't know. It seems from what I've been seeing from them, they like it more than the Bay. But a lot of my friends were moving. If you remember, 2019, a lot of people were moving from San Francisco to LA because
To LA, yeah, yeah. I
it
remember
was
that.
cheaper.
Better weather, all that. Yeah,
Yeah, cheaper, and it was crazy because people was like, "Yeah, it's cheaper," and I'm like, "LA's cheaper," and I'm like, because 2019 that was like the apex. Well, now it's higher, but before the pandemic, the Bay Area was like really getting. It was just climbing, 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 and so people would like go to the Bay to come up on their career, and then once they came
yep,
up, they go to LA.
yep. That
Yeah,
was the formula.
yeah, yeah,
See,
man.
for me, I like, and I always liked LA. I've always wanted to live in LA. But I think for me, I'm like, I know tech is like SF is a tech hub. LA has tech, but I know SF is a tech hub, and I just felt like I would get the most opportunities up here.
Yeah, LA is more like Hollywood entertainment. I feel like tech, like
Hmm.
Netflix, because one of my friends was working at LinkedIn, and he left to go work at Netflix, and he broke down like why he left. He basically told me he's like I would have lost money, um, if I would have stayed at LinkedIn going to Netflix, even though he lost a lot of shares from vesting. I think he was at LinkedIn for like 2 years or something like that. And this is before they got acquired by Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken. They
Yeah,
bought him a new
yeah.
car. They bought him a new car. I think they helped him put a down payment on the house. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
I was like, he's like, yeah, man, I'm in LA now. I was like, yo, you better run.
Yeah, literally, literally. That's dope.
Yeah, yeah, he came up. So Um, yeah, that's like because Culver City, from what I was told, is actually like the real tech hub in
Yeah,
LA.
yeah.
Culver City is like um, right outside of LA. But what scares me about LA is just the traffic. It's just so bad, you know.
It's brutal, man.
Yeah, and I kind of still come back to living in Houston or the Houston area, right? Like it's still affordable. Like the cost of living here is probably analogous to what the Bay was in 2018, 2019. Um,
Mm.
and so locals here, like it's gotten more expensive, and I'm like, it's still cheaper.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
What
you,
I'm used
I'm
to.
like anywhere, like coming from the Bay Area, going anywhere. You like other than maybe like a New York, it's like you coming up.
Right, right, right. So I know we're a little bit over, but just one question I want to ask you. What's the primary difference that you've seen from working for a tech company that's public, like NerdWallet, that's on the stock market is public, and Twilio, versus when you were founding like Overflow? What are like the differences that you notice when you're working for a public company versus one that's private and not public yet?
Yeah, for sure. I would say public companies. Um, I would say things that I've observed at least like you have better work life balance because it's like the company, it's like you're still grinding, right? But I feel like you don't have to grind as much, and I don't want to like say that in like a bad way, like oh you don't got to work, but I feel like in bigger companies, especially like public companies, it's like you have a little bit more room to breathe. Right, you still got to hit numbers, right? Like
Right.
they're a public company, you have to be accountable to investors, etc. But I feel like in a startup though, it's like, you gotta be scrappy. Like, bro, I had no work life balance. Like the last 3.5 years, I forgot like summer even happened. I remember people like, oh, how's your summer been? And I'm like, oh, it is summer. I didn't know what month of the year it was. Like, I would know, but I wasn't thinking about like vacation, anything like that. I'm just like, okay, I'm in grind mode. I gotta get it because it's like at a startup, it's like a race against the clock, and there's just so much pressure because like if you run out of money you run out of money, right? And that's the biggest thing that kills startups. You got to figure things out. And so it was definitely stressful, a stressful 3.5 years. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was really fun. I definitely felt a lot of ownership too, because like, if you have an idea, you can just go and implement it. And so like on the contrary, when it comes to when it comes to like public companies, there's a lot of bureaucracy, right? A lot of controls in place. To do anything, you need approvals by this person, that person, that person, and so things just move a lot slower. So I did really like the fast pace until I felt like I was at the startup at Overflow until I felt like I was getting burnt out, right? And so now I feel like you can. I feel like at a bigger company, that especially a company that's public, I don't want to say you can cruise, but it's like you don't have to run as hard, as fast. Like, no one's expecting me to work after hours, but like after 5 p.m., like no one's bothering me. Like that's not an extra. If you hit someone up after 5 p.m., like you get scoffed at. Like, why are you reaching out to me? Whereas in a startup, that's the norm. That people are working late night, people are pinging you late night, and there's kind of like an expectation that you have to be available too. And so I had to do a little bit of unlearning, coming back into like a public company to, say, okay, it's okay to leave this for tomorrow, right? Nothing's gonna burn down. Whereas, at the startup life, man, everything is just like go, 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 go.
Right. And the one thing too that I'll point out that I noticed is like generally companies that are already public, um, and their um and their stock prices like going up, they're usually less likely to give you more equity when you're
Oh
negotiating.
yeah,
And so like I remember when I was joining Twilio and I was talking to the recruiter. I'm like, hey, I would like X amount more compensation. I'm open to it being more salary or equity. And I actually even told him, I said, I prefer it be more equity because I see a lot of value in Twilio long term.
wow,
Um, and I actually meant it because I do, I at that time I didn't trade, but I was at that time I did long term invest. So I had started looking at and how I do now when I join a company, I look at it from an investor standpoint because I'm investing my time.
exactly. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, because yeah. And so, but I also, gave him that answer as well because I didn't want him to pigeonhole me like, oh, he's not here for the long term. He's just here for the short term. So Twilio didn't give me more money. I mean, they didn't give me more stock. They gave me more money. And that
Hmm.
surprised the crap out of me. I'm like, whoa, that kind of surprised me. Um, I'm trying to think what other company,
But yeah, that was the same at Overflow. Like my
yeah.
base salary wasn't market, but I had a lot of and I have a lot of equity. Whereas when it comes to like NerdWallet, I'm getting like a market salary, but my equity is like it's okay equity, but it's not gonna like change my life, right?
Right. I mean, and like I tell people who work at these public tech companies, like I was telling my one of my suggesting to one of my former coworkers, I'm like, bro, Mac, you better maximize the ESPP program, employee stock purchase
Free
program,
money, man.
because you're instantly getting 15% off on the stock. And like to give you like more context, like if a stock is down 10%, that's called a correction, right? If it's down 20%, that's called a I forgot what it's called, but it's basically like that stock is bearish, meaning that it's on its way down. So if you're working for these public tech companies, right, and they're doing good, you're getting 15% off. So like I
Yeah.
use Nvidia as an example, right? Like Nvidia is having a crazy run. Like I would if I was like working at Nvidia, I would be buying that stock like as much as I can. Because and I'm always being given a cushion on
Hmm.
stock price.
It's
Um,
free money. Yeah, I
it's free
it's
money.
like a free 15% basically.
Yeah. And
If
I
you
remember,
sell it immediately, I guess, and it
yeah,
doesn't go down. But if you believe in a company and you're bullish on it, then you're in the money automatically.
yeah, and you got the you got in baked in safety. Like I think today, let me look at my phone. Like today, Nvidia fell like let me look what it fell. I think it fell like 5% or something like that today. Um, yeah, so it fell 5.5% today, right? And then you're getting 15% off on top of that. So, now the way they calculated, because I remember I forgot her name, and it's probably the same lady that helped she
Christine.
Christine loved her. She was the stock administrator. And they broke down how they come with the price for the stock. It was
Yeah,
very
it's like the
convoluted. It was very convoluted. It was like it takes the average price. It takes the I think it took the average closing price of the stock for that 3 month period because you actually you putting money into it every time you get paid, but you don't actually get the price until like the last day of that quarter or something like that.
I always thought it was the lowest. I always thought it was the lower of the close price on the day one of the window and the last day of the window, and 15% discount of whichever was the lowest.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I remember they explained. I was like, it just went all around my head. I said, well, I'm buying this every month still. Like I'm
yep,
getting
yep, yep.
getting the 15% clip. Um, and that actually helped me out a lot after I got laid off. Like I sold the stock. I should have kept it because it ran up to, like you said, it ran up to 400, and I was like, damn, I should have kept it. But I
Oh,
sold
trust
it.
me too, bro.
I sold it to buy something else. And then I was starting a company at that time. So, but yeah, I was like, damn, I should have kept it a lot longer.
Yeah, and I feel you, man. I feel you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did the numbers on what it would have been too had I like kept it at four. I mean, it's obviously gone down since then, but I look at like, damn, what it could have been had I sold at that 400, and I was like, oh, I'm sick.
How you don't have to give us numbers, but how life changing would it have been for you if you would have kept it?
Had I kept everything and like say, so I didn't even stay the full 4 years either. So this is accounting for me staying the whole 4 years and never having sold anything. Which is, some people. There were some people that hadn't touched anything. I had some friends at Twilio. They said they didn't touch any of their stock. And so like my initial grant was like 100K over 4 years. And so basically, I did the math. Had I never, and I want to say my stock price was like 37. So basically 10x. So I would have been a millionaire. It would have been an easy million, not easy million, but it would have been a million had I like had I fully vested and sold everything at $400.
Wow.
I know, right? I know. It makes you think, but hindsight's 2020, and you can't predict these things.
Yeah, you can't. You can't, but you can, like if you look at a company's like balance sheet, you know what I'm saying, or not that well, I look at the balance sheet, but I mean like looking at their income statement or like cash flow
Hmm.
statement really. If they have like a consistent growth margin that's like 25 to 50%, like Nvidia is crazy because I think they growth margin is like 50%, and they're projected to have more incoming cash on hand than Microsoft or something like that, something
I
crazy.
believe it. Yeah, they're powering the AI revolution with the
Yeah.
GPUs.
Yeah, and then Taiwan is about to be taken over allegedly by China, so that's fueling it too. That's part of the reason
Oh
why.
wow, I didn't realize that.
That's the main reason. So China, I think it was I can't remember which war, but China was told that they were going to be given Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're basically calling on that. And Taiwan Semiconductor is
Yep.
actually the best chip manufacturer in the world, and their proprietary information is all in Taiwan, even though they have warehouses or fab centers. They have one or two here in the US, I think in Arizona, I think. But most of their core technology is in Taiwan.
Yeah,
Um,
the founder and CEO, he's Taiwanese as well.
oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Jensen
Oh,
Huang, yeah, he's from Taiwan. And when we went to Bali, we had a layover in Taiwan. So I was talking to the one of our flight attendants. He was from Taiwan, and I was asking him what Taiwan is like, and he was like, there's beaches like here and there, but he's like a lot of the country, like a certain part, he's like it's all semiconductors. And I was like, wow.
yeah, yeah. That's the true IP. And then when I there was a couple of things being said, but Warren Buffett used to own a lot of Taiwan Semiconductor. And then
Mhm.
he divested from it. I was like, oh snap, this joint is real. Like, because he's getting inside information. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's a kingmaker. So that's the backstory also as well why Nvidia is like running up because America needs a semiconductor producing out. Nvidia doesn't make the chips. Well, they don't. So they rely on ASML to make the chips, but then also other companies outsourced it. They don't really make the hardware. They're more focused more on the software piece, but
Mhm.
allegedly or supposedly they're supposed to be trying to get in more into the hardware space. That'll like complete the circle for them.
Yeah,
But
like own the full supply chain basically.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, like it's but yeah, back to my point. Like if you see a company that's doing like a high gross margin, like mostly like that was the one thing that excited me about Twilio. We were being in those meetings and they're like, yeah, we're running a 25% margin. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
it's crazy. You think about text messages, bro, that's selling for a fraction of a penny. And I mean, I know there was other products too, but like when you think about that, and I know there's like the enterprise deals, but it's like they're at its core, like the biggest business moneymaker was selling text messages.
but you know the crazy thing, you know what the most profitable thing that I know this and this information, well, I think it may still be true, but I remember back then, I'm not sure if I can share it, but oh well, they made most of their profitability on phone numbers.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was actually the most profitable. Um, and there was reps who lost deals to other companies that were selling SMS services on our API. Like there were, I heard the stories of reps arguing, or CEOs of these other companies arguing with Twilio sales reps, like, you can't do that, da, 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 da. And so we'd be trying to sell to different companies, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm talking to so and so, but we couldn't tell them, oh, this is they're actually using us.
Yeah, yeah,
That happened. That happened a lot. I don't think I ever lost a deal to one of our quote unquote partners, but I've heard of stories of where one story in particular where a CEO of a company called and like cursed out a rep, a Twilio rep, who was like, da 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 da, like stop trying to steal my customers. And it's just like, dude, you're on our platform. Like,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're just a reseller.
yeah, yeah. So it was like that was the one thing that I think from a business perspective, that's probably not good for Twilio long term because it's like you're cannibalizing yourself.
Yeah.
But if you remember, they never mentioned SMS. I haven't listened to one of the earnings calls lately, but they don't even really mention SMS. Like I remember they used to just talk about Flex. They used to talk about Flex a lot.
Yeah, because that's like purely software, so you make more margin. Whereas with the text message, it's kind of like a commodity, right? It's built on top of the
Yeah.
phone carrier, so there's all these extra costs there. Whereas, if you're just selling pure software, so you have higher margins.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Twilio was a great learning experience. I came up at Twilio. I ain't even gonna lie. Like I came up like I was getting money. I'm like, man,
Yeah, man.
yeah,
What a time to be alive. And we need those days back, man.
yeah, that pandemic, man. That pandemic time working at Twilio was wow. I don't, you weren't there then, were you?
Yeah, I left December 2019.
Yeah, like I was working like 10 and 12-hour days. Yeah, like it was because you got to think a lot of our clients' heads was on fire, and
Mhm.
so as a rep, we got to be there for them. Why are you working right now? It's like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right.
And I feel like you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool, man. This is we gonna have to do this again, Cal, man. Like I appreciate you you stopping by through the trap.
Sure.
You're from Atlanta, so Atlanta is the actual home of the word trap. So
Come in your trap, take over your trap. You ever heard that song?
you
Remember what song was that I said needed to be your your theme song? I forget what song it was. There was something, and I was like, you got to use this song.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember what it is. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually got a beat made. I hired he used to be the DJ at my event that I used to host in the Bay Area called Tech Trap House. And I
Uh-huh.
actually he made a beat for me and I have to go through and figure out what part of the beat I want to use for my intro. Um
Nice.
but yeah, so I was like, yeah, I gotta have an intro beat because I wanted when people hear that sound, like the trap is back booming.
Yeah, trap. Yeah, that's what it was. Trap back jumping is the Ti
Oh,
song. That's exactly. That's the one that I was talking about. Yeah,
that was the one? That's funny.
yeah. Trap back jumping. Yeah, that's Ti.
Yeah. If I was cool with T.I., I guess I could get it cleared, but
Yeah, no, I get it. No copyright, all that stuff. But no, I get
yeah,
it, bro. But
yeah.
this is awesome. Thank you for having me. We definitely got to do it again. And yeah, bro. Until next time, my friend.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So I want to thank y'all for stopping by Corey State Trap and Trap Talks, where we discuss the intersection of culture and tech. And Cal, again, yeah, thanks for stopping through, man. This definitely ain't gonna be the last, so stay over the top.
Absolutely.
And
Thanks, bro.
we gonna put a link. We can put the link in there too, so people can sign up directly on the video. So
Okay.
send it to me afterwards.
Okay, bet. Sounds like a plan, bro.
Cool.
All right.
Documents in, decisions out. Go to doculingo.com/Trap Talks 2040 to get your 14-day free trial. And don't forget to sign up for our Patreon page. We out.